this place became a insane asylum.
As soon as you said upstairs, I heard screaming. And
Absolutely. Oh, like shrieking, terrified,
and people
screaming.
throwing themselves against the walls, like
And
banging
beating
things, their hands
are
are bloody because they're actually just beating themselves and the things around them.
Mm-hmm. But he did tell me, don't go through those doors. He made it very clear the other side of this top floor of the building was some serious bad things going on.
Hi everyone, I'm Em.
I'm Liv.
I'm Julie.
And we're your meta
PsycKicks.
If you don't know, when my mom's here, it means that we're doing another Paranormal Stories of a Medium. It's going to be great.
And if you're interested in more stories, we have a playlist of all the Paranormal Stories of a Medium that we do, because we do this monthly.
So this is going to be the story of Nurse Ratched.
Dun, dun, dun.
I didn't move specifically so that you could do something funny with the screen.
A very good friend of mine is a paranormalist, and they had interest in a building, a historic building in the area where I lived. And for about 2 years, he had been saying, come on, we need a medium. Come on, we need a medium. We want to do all of our EVPs and all this other stuff that I don't really understand. I'm a metaphysical person, but I'm more grounded than that. I'm really not into all that. So when he said to me, hey, we've got this place that's haunted and we need you to come and talk to the dead people. And I'm like, dude, you're weird. Stay away from me. Go plug in your stuff and do your thing.
We just lost all our followers.
So I finally, like I said, after about a year and a half, I finally just gave in. I really didn't know. He just said, I want you to come to a facility that has a history of being haunted. And we want to kind of divulge deeper into all of it. And we'd like you to come with us because when we ask questions to record for our EVPs, we want to know like if you pick up on anything and what you get versus what we may or may not get on our EVPs. The biggest reason I said yes was because I didn't know the history of this building, even though I lived in that town. And I'm like, that place is haunted? He's like, oh, hell yeah. And I'm like, what?
It's so pretty.
And they said, we're going to meet at like 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, what?
What?
10 o'clock at night?
It is bedtime.
Yeah, it's gotta be spoopy time to make it more spoopy.
I said, how long are we going to be there? He's like, till probably 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh, God. Anyway, so I went there. It was about 10:30 at night. And I went down into the basement or the cellar area.
Oh, was it so cool?
In the basement, this building has so much history. In the basement is a jailhouse. It used to be like a town, I don't want to say a town hall, but kind of. It was the constable's headquarters. And this particular facility would hold these folks. So there was a cell, there was 2 or 3 cells in the basement. They weren't cells anymore, but you could see where they had bars and they had, cut them off or torched them off. And now they were just storage rooms.
So
what was going on is they were talking about the history of the building, and I didn't want to know. They were upstairs. This building has like 4 stories, and they were dropping wires everywhere and taping things and pinning things and putting up cameras and all of their equipment, which takes like 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't want to hang out for all this. I'm just going to go downstairs because I did not want to know the history of the building because I didn't want to be like, okay, well, was that something that I just heard? And my brain is kind of moving it into where it should be, and I wanted no information whatsoever. So while we were down there, I felt this man kind of shuffling behind me.
Oh,
and I was like,
you so much. I literally just saw a guy before you started talking about it.
Really? Is that the guy?
Is he really cute?
No, not at all.
Oh, but he's like an older guy.
Oh,
I mean, so if anyone's ever seen the show, The Waltons, you guys are so young, there was a character, Grandpa.
Yes.
And this guy's like an older overall.
That's what he looks like.
With a big belly. You know what he kind of reminded me of? He kind of reminded me of one of the guys that we used to see at that one barn that we talked about last time.
Yes.
That kind of proprietor of
he
like
has
where
gray
the buggies
hair.
were parked.
The guy from the barn had dark brown hair and a dark mustache. The guy that you were talking about.
I don't see their faces as well as you
I
do.
get what they look like.
I pick up on more like the emotional.
Yes. Like kind
than
of
I do the physical.
but he also wants to tell you about all the stuff that's going on where you're at.
I mean, I feel like this guy had been in that area forever. He knew everything. He was basically like the janitor, kind of sanitation guy, kind of I'll fix it if it's got a leak kind of guy. And he had been there a long time and he knew the area.
He really liked you.
Did he really?
Yes, he thought you were cute, but not like in a creepy old man way.
No, like he would stand like really close behind me.
Yeah, but not because he's being creepy. He's just like, I like you. You're here to talk about things.
He's showing me that he liked your hair.
Like, that's
He's
how
like-
he remembers you.
Well, I feel like he
It's so cute! Sorry.
likes you because you're giving the truth, whereas a
I
whole bunch of
was,
people are
and
spreading lies.
He didn't like that all the people were coming through the building, and
He values
he didn't like the
knowledge.
sensationalism of it, and I don't either. And so we definitely had that simpatico going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he said, you know, he would tell me, you know, a lot of bad things happened here. A lot of people came through here, and really bad things happened to them. It really bothered him. And I just feel like he was kind of like my Walmart greeter, if you will. Like, hey, I'm at the door. Here's what you're gonna find.
But he also helped protect you while you were there. He walked behind you the whole time.
Did he?
Yeah, he was at like a
Okay.
5 foot
Did he?
distance behind you the entire time, and people
It
were
was so
coming
much
on your
going
left
on.
or right. But he was there to help mediate it. Oh my God, he's so cute. He
Yeah.
really liked you. He
Really?
really helped protect you while you were there.
Interesting, because I was scared.
If things that you didn't think that he didn't think that you could handle, or you didn't think that you could handle, walked up to you, he literally was like, step back.
That's off. Yeah, he was very protective. I could see that.
Sorry, I'm
That's
gonna stop.
awesome.
He was like, I mean, I would say like I would put
Like
him in like
60s?
an old school protective kind of guy, like old school gentleman. You know, like this is a girl, this is a woman, and she's gonna not have anything. I'm not gonna let anything get at her. So I had brought a book with me to write stuff down, and I don't usually always do that, but this particular time I just felt like I needed it, and boy was I right. So I went up to the very top floor. I just got in the staircase, and I just kept going up, and I kept going up, and I kept going up, and I stopped. And I just sat at the top of this hallway, and this top floor to the left was a dormered room, and then to the right was a whole different thing. Now, when I was in this small room, there was some balls, like for a child, like plastic balls, like the bouncy house balls, but a little bit bigger.
That's where I thought this was going.
And there was about 4 or 5 of them, maybe 6 of them. And they were just kind of indiscriminately laying around this room. There was an old dental chair that was creepy as hell. But it was just like this white metal chair, and it had armrests on it that were metal, and there was straps. There was leather straps across where your hands would sit to be strapped down. There was a headrest and a metal pole that had this like little headrest on it, and these footrests, and the footrests also had straps on them. Old, like dry rotted leather straps with buckles. So this was not, you know, have a seat, I'm gonna get you a drink kind of chair. Okay, this was have a seat, shut the hell
Why
up.
was it there?
Don't know.
That's kind of weird.
It was super weird. Yeah, this whole building was weird. But so this little boy was in there, and interestingly enough, at first, I'm gonna say he was sitting over against the wall, like with his back against the wall. He just fit against that small knee wall. And the balls in that room were his. He would play with them. And I firmly believe, although I did not confirm, that people put those balls in there for him because they did know that he was a spirit in that house. I feel like
I can
mentally.
confirm it for you that that's why they weren't in the time frame from his life. It's because the people that go there for paranormal investigations know he's there, and they give them to him.
And so, interestingly enough, I would say he was about 4, 5, 6 years old.
I would say 3 or 4, but then he also shows you of him in the age of 6 to 7 as well.
Yeah, almost up to age 9.
He switches.
So here's what happens, and then I also see him going all the way up to about age 18. But interestingly enough, I think he was probably in his late teens, early 20s when he originally got there, which tells me he was developmentally challenged severely. In those days, that's what people did, and that's where people went. That's how it was categorized, and some people didn't know what to do with it, how to handle it, and so they would send them away. The history of it is very interesting because the building was built like in the 1860s, early 1870s. So if you know your history, what was going on in our country then? The Civil War. And so what was happening? People were being killed, and people were dying. And so what was happening, and it was men, not women. So what was happening is the women and the children were being left behind. They had nowhere to go if they didn't have any other family, and their husbands were now gone. What are they supposed to do? They got sent to what we would probably now call a halfway house, which is what this building became.
Yeah.
So the women and the children would go there for a period of time until family could be sent for them and notified, hey, your family's here, so-and-so has been shot, killed, wounded, whatever.
Or they would come back and get them.
Or they would come back and get them, right. So it was a place for these women and these children to go. And of course, they all had the same thing in common. They were widows, you know, and so they needed their sisters to help them out. And not too far down the road from this particular building was the Underground Railroad in this area. So it was a way there as well for them to transport them, and it's very close to the railroad tracks in this area that we are. So it just lent itself to be a good drop-off place, and it's kind of why this building was built. Anyway, this little boy, I kind of stepped away from him because he was kind of doing his own thing. There wasn't really a whole lot with him. But he did tell me, don't go through those doors. He made it very clear the other side of this top floor of the building was some serious bad things going on.
The paranormal investor came in and was like, we need to go right through those doors.
Right. That's what Emily would do.
We need to yeet ourselves off this cliff over there.
I walked through those doors.
You
actually,
did?
No, what I did was first I
The
said,
spirit says, don't walk through
first
the doors.
I
So I
sat
walked
down.
through the doors.
Because
I'm going the doors.
I'm seeing an older woman behind him.
Stop! Listen.
And I feel
So-
like she had something to do with the chair area, but she was a receptionist of whatever happened behind those doors.
Oh
Sorry.
my god, was the chair supposed to be behind those doors? What's behind those doors?
Emily's Virgo mind is about to
But, oh my
explode.
god.
I don't know what her name was, other than I can say that it started with the letter D. I want to say it was Dorothy, Dolores, Diane, maybe it was just D. But she had a D name. She was actually very compassionate, very nice woman. She knew the man who was the administrator, if you will, of the building at that time. Now, originally, the building, and I found this out as the night wore on. I started getting little tidbits, and I finally started putting everything together. And
That
then
she told you.
I was able to go back, just that I picked up in general, and including what she told me. You know, keeping up with women and children who had become widows, or whose husbands were, you know, psychologically messed up because of war during the Civil War, having limbs, you know, chopped off, blown off, whatever, and they just weren't able to be with their wives and their families yet. It went from being that kind of a facility to this place became a insane asylum. It became a place where, and this is not politically correct now, but this is our history, is where a lot of wealthy people didn't want to be around their family members anymore. They would have them institutionalized. So I can tell you, without getting into naughty specifics, that really bad things happened in this facility. Really bad things. Shock therapy, massive druggings, all kinds of really horrible things. They didn't behave. There was definitely torture going on. The dental chair that I saw was definitely used for dentistry, among other things, for sure. Now, this nurse that I spoke to, I did not know that she was a nurse initially. She came to this facility because she truly wanted to help. She knew that there was really bad things going on there. And I will say that a lot of the women who were there were definitely insane. Were they all there because their husbands didn't want them to be around? No. Do I know all the reasons that they were there? I do not. I also know that there were women who worked there and took care of these people. Here's the problem. They came from a facility further south in this particular state that was an institution, a penitentiary for women. So it was a women's jailhouse, and they sent them up to work at this facility.
They were having prisoners that killed people take care of people that were mentally ill.
When I was talking to this nurse, she had on her floor at the very top the bad of the bad, the worst of the worst, the horrible of the horrible, the ones that were certifiably insane. And that floor was for this. And at some point in the night, they went through the whole building, they did whatever the hell they were going to do, but they knew that the top floor was the floor. Interestingly enough, she's got quite a history of just attacking people and being really bad.
As
and
a spirit.
she was telling me that. But here's what's interesting. People don't understand, or they don't realize why the facility was there. And she's pissed off about the fact that they have just taken it completely out of context. They've gone to the whole one flew over the cuckoo's nest thing and the whole Nurse Ratched thing. And that's not what she was. She truly loved these people. She truly cared about them. She was truly concerned. And she really wanted to make a difference and make things better for them and not have it be this horrible asylum that it had become. So the worst of the worst got sent to the top floor, and that's where she assigned herself. And the reason they were on the top floor is because all of the yelling and screaming and scratching of the doors and banging on the walls out of just sheer mental illness was so bad that on the top floor, the people that were on the bottom floors that were there because their husbands wanted to, quote, get rid of them, didn't have to hear it so much. And it wasn't as disturbing to the rest of the constituents that lived in this building.
God.
They came and said, you know what's going on? And I was telling them everything. I said, she's a nurse. They're like, no, she's not. She was from the asylum. Or she was from the jailhouse. She was one of the workers from the jail, from the all-women's jail. I said, no, she wasn't. But that's what everybody all these years has believed, that she was this horrible, rotten felon or whatever, or criminal.
That's why they call her Nurse Ratched?
Yeah, but she wasn't. She actually was a bona fide nurse.
Yeah.
And that's why she was there, because she felt like she could administer their medications more appropriately, and she could help them with medications and help them be better.
And why she also put herself on the hardest floor, because she knew she needed.
But the problem is nobody ever
to take care of.
Right. The problem is nobody ever listened to her, and she was forced into drugging them, and she was forced into doing things to them that she did not agree with. And it was at that point that she realized that this man was not the person she thought that he was, and he was not trying to help. He was just making a ton of money off these wealthy people who had other people stored there. And these people on that top floor, they were just remnants, relics, if you were, of other people that had been there for so long that they didn't know what else to do with them. I mean, there's nothing, what are you going to do with them? You can't do anything with them.
Right.
So now she's stuck. And now people, decades later, are coming to this place, and it's pissing her off because she's afraid to cross over, because if she crosses over, she's going to see the people on the other side that she
dealt with,
that had to deal with, didn't have a choice. And it concerns her, so she's kind of protecting her turf and her territory and her area, and they're exploiting it, and it's upsetting to her.
And they're also telling her that she is something
So when
that she's
they
not
come,
because they're dumb.
Well, when they come into the building, she goes after them.
Well, also
to protect her area and her and the people that were there, and not to exploit them.
Is the top floor just haunted by her, or are there other spirits up there?
I think she goes throughout the whole building. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. But when we were up there,
as soon as you said upstairs, I heard screaming. And
absolutely. Oh, like shrieking, terrifying,
and people
screaming.
Like throwing themselves against the walls, like
and
banging things, their hands are bloody because they're actually just beating themselves and the things around them. So
they're like caged animals.
But that's why she put herself up there, because she didn't want the felons taking care of people that she thought actually needed actual care.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. But what Mom's about to get into is when you see paranormal investigators on television, what do? They walk into rooms and they scream at spirits. Yeah. If you're here, can you do this? You're a terrible person. We know this about you. So if you were a spirit, how offended would you be, especially if you're this woman?
Which is why I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in spirits who have something to say.
Yes.
And just want to be heard. And that's my job. This particular paranormal team, as I said earlier, had been there before. Several times, actually. And it was dark. We had no lights. We had a couple of flashlights. We're kind of sitting around on the floor. And we went into a couple of different rooms, and they showed me how to download an EVP on my phone. So we're all kind of sitting there seeing like who would pick up what on their phones, just sitting there quietly.
We did that at Janelle's house. It didn't work very well. Why are we the same person?
This one guy, John, was like the head honcho, and I said, I could see somebody walking in front of me. In the past, somebody had been walking in front of me that had been there, like recently. And I said, do you guys have a team member that's not here today? And they're all like, yeah. And they got super freaked out. And I'm like, who is it? And they're like, and my friend Jeff is like, Andrew. And I said, ooh, does he have a bad knee? They're like, yeah. I said, did he get scratched? They're like,
oh,
yes.
God.
And I'm
she
like,
scratched him?
I'm like, they're like, she did. I said, she did. And she was like, yeah, I scratched him, asshole. Like, she was pissed. I said, she scratched him. He was like, are you going to do this? Are you going to come out? If you're here, then do this. If you're here, then do that. And come on, why aren't you doing anything? We know you're here. And she kept telling him to stop it, and he didn't. He kept pushing and pushing and pushing.
Was the stop on EVP? Did they get her?
Well, hold on a second. Shush. So, yeah, so she did. She scratched him, and then she pushed him down. He hurt his knee. And he said he physically felt hands in his back and shoved him hard. So he would not come back. He said he would never ever come back. Never.
Good. That's what was supposed to happen.
Yeah. And so we're sitting there, and I'm opposite of John. All the equipment's in the middle of the floor. Now my friend Jeff is over to the left. And so he was standing in the doorways of one of the rooms. And he had his leg cocked up against the door with his foot on the door frame. And he's like, if you're here, and we put balls in the middle of the room. He said, please push one of the balls or throw it down the hallway or blah, 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 blah. And nothing happened. He's like, we know you're here. If you're here, give us a sign. And then there would be nothing. And we would just sit and watch the EVP. And everybody would be really quiet. And then he would say, if you're here, can you knock on the door or knock on a wall? And then we'd be staring at the EVP. Nothing. If you're here, then can you tell us what it was like to take care of these people? And he just kept, the questions just kept getting super more annoying as he went along. And
intrusive and degrading.
I finally said to him, I said, she's like, and they're like, are you getting anything? Are you getting anything? What is she saying? What is she saying? Are you picking up anything? I said, she's just getting super annoyed. And then Jeff was like, if you're annoyed with us, then blah, blah. And I just said, Jeff? And he's like, what? I said, did you play football in high school? And he's like, yeah. I said, did number blah, blah hit you really hard and you had you've had a knee problem ever since? It's your, whatever, it was left knee right now, I forget. And he's like, yeah. I said, yeah, well, she's going to take you out by your freaking knee if you don't shut your mouth. Oh. And he's like, and you kind of heard him like switch his hands, his legs, and he put his feet back both on the floor. He took a couple steps and he just sat in the damn floor. And that's where she was trying to transmedium me and I would not let her, but she really, because I wouldn't have said that. She said, you need to stay there. Oh. If you know it's good for you. That's what she said. You need to stay there if you know it's good for you.
And it's like that deeper voice too, that
and he's like, he's like, what did you just say? And I said, okay, that was not me. And everyone's like, and this John guy goes, excellent. He goes, excellent. Ask her a question. We decided, John had this idea to sit down and ask a question. So he was going to ask her a question. And then we were going to wait and watch to see if anything came up on EVP. And then after a couple of minutes or whenever, I would write down if I heard her say anything, if she said anything to me based on the question that they were asking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the EVP right then and there, they might say something, but you don't hear. You have to go back and listen to it.
Right.
So we would just sit there. He would ask a question, and we had a deal. We would wait 2 minutes. So he would ask a question, and then he would go. And then he would ask it. And then, so the question encompassed that 2 minutes, but it was only like, it was a simple question. Like, are you here with us tonight? And then be silent for 2 minutes. Yeah. And I had a piece of paper and I would write down if she said anything. Or if she had a reply or a response. After like several questions, he finally said, why are you here? Why do you haunt this place? Something like that. And she just got so annoyed. She just went, shut up. Like, just shut up. Just shut up. Like, she was so mad. She was just, shut up. And I wrote down, shut up. And we're sitting there, and he saw me write something down because I wasn't writing anything down. Yeah. And so he said, we asked the question that he asked, and everybody's really quiet. It was so quiet. So we're waiting, and he goes, okay, what did you write down? I said, shut up. She just wants you to shut up. I said, she's here to help people. I don't care if you guys believe me or not, and she doesn't give a shit either. She's just here to help, and it's just annoying, and everybody's sensationalizing it, and she just wants to protect the sanctity of the people who are still here and keep them safe. She's still on her watch. I get this phone call from Jeff. He's like, hey, I've got an EVP from our thing a couple months ago. I'm like, yeah. Shut up. He's like, do you want to come listen to it? So I went to his house and he played it. Now with the EVPs, a lot of them, you have to slow them down considerably because spirits just go and they say things super fast. So when they say it, it has to be slowed down, like, I don't know by how much, but like a ton for it to be able to be understood at our speed.
Got you.
And he played it for me and it was like, Zhum. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, listen. It was like, Zhum. And I'm like, what? He goes, Zhum. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. He goes, hang on. Boop, 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 boop. When he's doing all this stuff on his computer. And then you just hear like, shh. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, shh. And I'm like, what is that? He goes, hang on. And he started, and I'm like, what? He goes, hang on. And he goes, shh. And I'm like,
So great.
It was like clear as day, shut up. But it was like, shut up. And you just like, but he had to really slow it down. Yes.
How do you do that? It's creepy. It's freaking me out with you just like mimicking it.
If you guys thought this story was super spoopy, make sure to go to our website, metapsychics.com. It'll be linked in the description below to share your paranormal stories for a listener's episode where Liv is going to listen to the story being read to her and she's going to tell you what actually happened. She's not happy
Or
about
something.
it. Or something.
Like what I do when my mom tells me stories and I see what she's talking about and the spirits come in and talk to me. We'll see if that happens. No guarantees though, because if you got some weird stuff, I'm not going to talk to it. That's weird.
So make sure to share your paranormal stories with us so we can get that episode to you. However, while you guys wait, check out our other videos. We're going to have a podcast on this. And make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you do not miss out. Our next video is going to be all about the clairs and how to strengthen them and use them and things like that. So we'll see you guys in the next one.
We are your
PsycKicks. Other area up here, and throughout the building, there was a doll that would stand up that they had. And it would just be found in different parts of the building.
Oh,
and nobody
so it just
ever
walked
moved
around?
it. No, it got moved.
Well, by spirits though.
By who knows what, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's loving this, I know she is.
I just asked the man about it and he goes,
Because what dumbass would touch a doll in a haunted?
Yeah, it was like a 3-foot tall, like plastic doll.
Oh.
I actually have one. I moved recently and I found mine. It's about that big. It stands about that tall. And I went downstairs a couple weeks ago and I scared the crap out of myself.